to homeowners across Oklahoma. So when Mother Nature struck my house, it was an easy call to make. There's no one I would trust more than Ferguson Roof Systems for my home's roof. Since 1977, Ferguson has led the industry with an A+ Better Business Bureau rating and lifetime warranties. Plus, they'll even deal with the insurance companies so you don't have to. So when Mother Nature strikes, make your first call to Ferguson Roof Systems.
All right. Let's get a few things caught up here. Okay. I think we're up and running. Everybody looks happy. All right. Had a little hiccup. It's always a hiccup. You guys have no idea, just so you know, when you're trying to multi-stream across many platforms, it only takes one to hiccup, and it's just like a chain reaction of nonsense. And I gotta scramble really quick to get it fixed and get it running. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think we're good though here this time around. So thanks for joining me. I am meteorologist Aaron Tuttle, your friendly neighborhood weatherman. It's been around for eons in this space. You would think after 15 years of social media stuff, I wouldn't have any more hiccups, but no, man. This stuff changes on the fly all the time. And if you've ever done any of this stuff yourself, you know how fun it can be. And I use that word in quotes because you're always up to the changes of the villains that you work with and what they decide they want to do. So thanks you guys for tuning in on TikTok. I think I fixed the microphone issue that was there last night. The system disconnected my mic for some reason, so I had to reconnect it. So I think you're good now. But anyway, so Jody will be in the chat, so say hello to Miss Jody tonight. She will steer you in the right direction if you have any questions. She always drops in some helpful hints in all the chats on all the platforms. So she's out there multitasking for you guys on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, also on TikTok and YouTube, etc. So glad you guys could join me. So we're going to make this a little shorter than we did last time. Last night was like, I hadn't seen you in a while, so we had talked about a lot of maps and a lot of changes coming our way. This time around, I'm going to kind of shorten things for you and kind of get more to it, which I know a lot of you like. Now, in the old days, I could do that because there was only one of me. Now, there's thousands of me trying to fight for your attention, so I get it. If you like more than one person, you want to watch more than one person, but you ain't got all the time in the world. So I understand. The landscape has changed quite a bit. I was talking to her about it. I got my thoughts. I'm not sure on that here at the end of this for those that want to hang around. But right now, 34.5 degrees here in my backyard. So obviously it's a little bit on the chilly side. We are above freezing though, which is good. However, if you do look across the northern and western parts of the state where this yellow line is, this is all temperatures that are either at or below freezing. So if you did have any residual moisture in the atmosphere, patchy fog, something like that, bridges and overpasses, you got to watch those because those might become a little bit slick on that side. Otherwise, the rest of the state into the 30s and 40s, even some 50s and 60s down across far southeast Oklahoma. If you look at highs today, we topped out into the 40s across about half the state. The other half was a mixed bag of 50s, 60s, and 70s, so really nice there in southeast Oklahoma. So some sunshine this time of the year really does you good. So if we do look at where the most of the fog will be here for this evening, it's going to be kind of focused out here in western Oklahoma. And again, this kind of overlaps some of those areas that are at or below freezing. Just be careful out there for a few hours. Temperatures actually probably warmest a hair overnight, and that fog kind of shifts out here into the panhandle of Texas. Now, as we head to tomorrow, into tomorrow night, so in other words, Friday night, Saturday morning, we're probably going to see some more of that fog develop, and that's what all this pink shading is. Really dense here across Kansas, western Oklahoma, central and southern. What did I say? Southern Kansas, western Oklahoma, and central and southern Oklahoma. Yeah, okay. So anyway, so be kind of advised this time of the year. Watch the temperature in your car. If you're driving through fog, if it's too low, be careful. Take it slow. All right, so let's take a look at big upper levels atmospheres. The jet stream pattern shows us. We're going to look at the European tonight. Again, when you have a west flow, a zonal flow, you get quick moving little waves that move through, and usually they're not all that strong. It's when they get more of a little dip to them is when things get a little bit more exciting. So our first little wave will come in here for Monday, it looks like. So here is our Monday into Tuesday time frame. So this little wave right here will be zipping through, creating a little instability in the atmosphere and some moisture that will squeeze out some light precipitation. And then on Tuesday night and Wednesday, this one's actually kind of strengthens a bit. It's actually got a little bit more of a dip to it, which means it's coming a little bit stronger, and that's not unexpected. We're going to have this type of a pattern up here in the north. You see this big area here, my friends? This is the polar vortex. How about that? So polar vortex making a run for the states again, coming up here into central Kansas. Let me go zip through, get that off the screen, and then we'll go back out here. All right, so that's it where I was, and then after that, there is. Come on, why is this being all goofy on me? All right, here's the next one right here. This will be the one that comes in for the following weekend. All right, so right around the 15th. Now, it's changed its configuration already. Earlier, the low was kind of in this region. Now it's kind of coming in elongated trough in this area. So there's a lot of details to work out here, but there's potential there for a more significant winter storm, at least in the central, possibly southern plains, by the next weekend. Not this weekend, but the next one. So again, that's something to watch over the coming days. But again, I just want to bring that to your attention in case you did not see last night's broadcast or lunchtime today. All right, here's a look at the precipitation. So by late tonight, tomorrow morning, we should see get that low out of there. What am I doing with that low? Give me the arrow. Here we go. The green stuff. Should be a little bit of light sprinkles, maybe some more patchy fog or something like that. Drizzle in this area across central, eastern Oklahoma for our Friday morning. So just kind of keep in mind that's probably going to be on the docket. So kind of another start of a dreary look to it. Now for the afternoon, we should kind of get most of that stuff out of here. There's still some residual echoes here on the radar forecast, but out here in the west looks like mostly dry. And then everything's kind of good there. And then we may kind of repeat Friday night and Saturday morning with some of that fog around the area. And then let's see here. This is on Saturday midday. A few showers down here across southeast Oklahoma. Another cold front's coming in. And that keeps the rain down there in South Texas. And then some of that starts to work its way across Red River into southern Oklahoma as we head into Sunday morning, out advance of the next wave that comes in for Monday. So maybe a little bit of a sneak attack in here on Sunday. Now just a quick forecast sounding for Sunday with that light precipitation breaks out, at least in the echoes of the data. What we're looking at here is some mid-level moisture that's trapped with some dry air above and dry air below. So more than likely then that means it's going to evaporate before hitting the ground, but the forecast does call for potential of some sleet if that were to happen. So you might get some sleet grains in here on Sunday while we're still looking for Monday as the big precipitation day. But we shall see how things kind of materialize. So tonight, we've got lots of, like I said, 30s in the blue shading here across the northern, northwestern parts of the state. And as we head into our Friday, it will be kind of chilly because of the clouds, fog, drizzle, sprinkles, all that kind of stuff, at least the first part of the day. Some of that stuff, it moves out. So we'll rebound a little bit here across southern Oklahoma, some 50s out south and also out to the west. Look at these temperatures out here in the Panhandle for Dalhart and Amarillo. They're up close to 80 degrees. There's Lubbock at 83. My goodness. All right, so let's go into then for Friday night. So we're back into the 40s. And then on Saturday, we do briefly warm up into the 50s and 60s, barely here across the I-44 corridor, Tulsa, Oklahoma City. When you're heading out Saturday morning, maybe if you're doing something early in the weekend, otherwise warm down here in southeast Oklahoma. But then a cold front is coming in, so that's going to drop those temperatures back down across the, let's just go to the afternoon here, right here, about 4 o'clock. You can see how temperatures have dropped all the way back into the 40s, down close to Red River. So that means any warmness that you get on Saturday is going to be short-lived as the next front clears it all out of here. Now, I do want to focus your attention just real quickly on the big broad picture. This is the North Pole right here in the middle. All right, this is Siberia. This is the U.S. and Canada right here. What I want to show you is this big batch of white. This is temperatures around minus 40, minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit. I just want to show you that the big kit and caboodle breaks free, comes out of that area, and comes southward. So that kind of gives you an idea what we're dealing with when it comes to the cold temperatures. So this is, let's see, for this weekend, this is Friday, all right, and this Saturday. Now watch how this little color starts to spill off right here. See that? So that is the release of the Arctic hounds. Now watch what happens here as we go past the weekend on into next week. And some of that is starting to spill down here. So you see the white colored shadings now moving into Canada. So that's where they start to get really cold for the middle of next week. And there's not a whole lot of whiteness left over for Siberia. It means a lot of that has come southward. And look at this. See how much of this region is now white? So this is all minus 40s and minus 50s now into Canada. But when you get them that close here to the U.S., it does not take much for some of that to come right back into our neck of the woods as well. So you can get some sneak attack, really nice, cold, bitterly frigid temperatures here across the northern half of the U.S. and in parts of the central parts of the U.S. So, for example, that kind of looks like here, a close-up view. Here's next Thursday morning. This is probably the coldest of that first wave of where it'll be. If you just look at some of the models. So, for example, this is the UK Met, and it has temperatures down here just right around Winnipeg and westward, up around minus 49, minus 52. These are not wind chills, actual air temperatures. It's not Celsius, it's Fahrenheit. That's gross, that's disgusting. But you do notice the breaks, and I do mean the breaks. So this is the blue, represents the leading edge of the cold air for the freezing line. But because we're in that zonal flow, remember the jet stream pattern west to east? You can be thankful for that, because what that does is it's a barrier, believe it or not. I know it's in the upper levels, but it does reflect what happens at the surface, and it keeps us in a pattern where most of this nasty stuff that's all up in here stays up in here, and the warm stuff stays down here, and we're caught in between, which is good if you want a chance for winter storms, because being caught in between is where your shear axis increases from the difference in difference in temperatures from the cold and the warm. So we're in the transition period where some days you get warm air that comes in, and then other days you get cold air that comes south. And one day it can be 75 degrees here, and the next day it can be 12 degrees, and it is what it is. Welcome to Oklahoma. So there's an example there across the country of how bad it could be for next week toward the middle. All right, here's a close-up view of the European data, which just kind of shows you that the cold air that comes in, here's a big push right here for Saturday morning, kind of stays anchored across Nebraska, and then starts to kind of work its way into Kansas slowly, and then finally oozes for Sunday on in toward Oklahoma and on into Monday. But you can see there's a pretty good difference to where temperatures here continue to moderate after the surges. Like a surge comes in, moderate, surge comes in, moderate. And that's typical in this pattern. All right, so let's go see when they stop moderating. Look at this big push right here. There we go. So this is around, again, Tuesday of next week. There's your purple starting to show up on the map there in Nebraska. And there's Kansas getting in the purple and the white. That's where your real true nasty Arctic air comes in. And then we're here in Oklahoma. We're into the teens and 20s. It looks like starting to take shape for Wednesday of next week. But single digits not too far away. And again, this is an early look at the model data, which means some of these numbers could be much colder and they could be much further to the south. So something we'll be watching over the coming days. All right, so here's a look at the precipitation that we talked about, where we're going to focus on into next week, because the potential there is for some winter weather fun business. So there is Monday morning. Now this is outside of the slate or light precipitation we may develop during the day on Sunday from the high resolution models that are starting to come into that window. This is a long-term model, so the resolution won't be as good as the short-term model stuff. So we'll see what happens on Sunday afternoon. It could be a little bit of a wild card. But for right now, Monday, it keeps most of the state above freezing, but a very cold rain with a little mix of some sleet and then some snow in the data signals. And each model is a little bit different as to how they want to handle this. I'm just using the European for right now to show you that most of it seems to be a cold rain. Favorite areas where you get more of a mixture would be down here across the northwestern part of the state, on into Monday night and Tuesday morning, more snow into Kansas with that. All right, so that first wave moves off. And again, this could end up changing. It could end up being all snow. It could end up being a sleet. It could end up being just rain, maybe a touch of freezing rain. So there's still some details to work out on that, but it looks like a very weak wave, at least on precipitation side. Then a stronger signal that we talked about in the data for the jet stream shows things that are more active, plus more cold air has worked its way in for Wednesday of next week. And now you have a broader signal right here for freezing rain and sleet across central and south central Oklahoma. Just a cold rain down here in southeastern Oklahoma, North Texas, and then snow across northwest Oklahoma, Kansas, and maybe northeastern Oklahoma. So that would be our second wave, with more to come after that. On into the following weekend. So we may have several little waves here that all accumulate little at a time. If you look at the snowfall amounts, we'll just quickly look, just kind of give you, this is a look at the signals. In other words, A are the signals there for snow, and then B right now is a signal for heavy or for light snow. In the ensemble of the UK Met, focus again is mostly across to our north for Kansas and Missouri, with a little secondary batch here across North Texas, including Dallas. The American model shifts it all right around the I-40 corridor and then points north for the very considerable snowfall, and it's got several inches up to the north. The European is kind of similar, but heavier snow amounts up to the north-northeast, not as much across Oklahoma. And the Canadian, same idea. So all the global models are in agreement that the I-40 seems to be a pretty hard line in the sand. it's a crapshoot south of there, it's a done deal north of there, and then at least something measurable in both cases. Now, if you do want to get close-up view of that for the a blend of the models, for example, the models seem to favor the northern parts of the country and the central parts of the country for some decent snowfalls. But look at all this. This is some very serious heavy snow for the ski resorts. They're going to love it out here in Colorado. It's a good pattern for getting a good snows up there. And I want to show you just real quickly the northeast, because over time the northeast is going to get slammed little by little from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I think there's another, I think it was a Saturday, Sunday event. Now this is a very conservative after melting accumulation of snowfall, and they're looking at 2 feet. All right, 2 feet of snow this week across the whole New England area. That's impressive. All right, so that'll probably lead to some power outages, all that kind of deal, just from the weight of the snow. And this is a conservative number. In other words, there are some numbers that are much higher than that. For example, here's the American model that's got 3 feet of snow nearly. The Canadian also 2 feet. There's some spots up here higher than that. And the European's on the conservative side for right now. We'll see. But so that number's been floating around off and on. So just kind of heads up if you live in that area, or if you have lived in that area. If you have, well, you might be watching me from that area, or if you have some friends or family, or you plan on traveling. Now, here across Oklahoma for ice, here's a look at the European data, which does show a little hint of some light stuff for Tuesday morning of next week. So that's, again, Monday night, Tuesday morning. That means some travel trouble spots on the bridges and overpasses, so you do not want to get dealing with that and get caught off guard. Then some little heavier stuff is showing up in the data as we head for that midday. What's wrong with my brain tonight? Wednesday, midday, some decent amounts of ice accumulations across central and northeast Oklahoma on the I-44 corridor, and also here across northern Arkansas, southern Missouri. Now, still early in this, but this signal has been floating around in different data, moves around up, down, south, east, northwest, lighter, heavier. So in days, changing days from, is this early on Wednesday, or is it more of a Saturday, Sunday event? So there's a lot of stuff going on next week in the data to show you that we do have some fun stuff to deal with that may become problematic for us. All right, temperature-wise, this is, it ain't going to happen. Let's just don't see that happen. I only read 65 tomorrow. I had to look at the European data just because I was kind of curious to see how I was going to do in some of these numbers, because you can see some pretty wild swings, and that's the reason why I kind of wanted to show it to you to drive home the point of when you're in this pattern, how quickly your weather can change day to day. So again, starting out probably Saturday into the 50s and then falling for the rest of the day into the 40s. So again, Saturday's a little misleading here. That's your morning high temperature for the day. And then Sunday, we might be in the 40s around midnight, but we should kind of gradually get cooler, or at least hold for the rest of the day, and then gradually get colder for Sunday night into Monday. So Monday and Tuesday could be much colder than this, definitely 30s for the forecast. And then for Wednesday and Thursdays, our coldest. In prior data, these numbers were down around 0 degrees. So just to let you know, there's a lot of variation day to day in just one model, much less all the models. And look how quickly a warm up tries to give us 72 by that Saturday. And this is the next following weekend. We're supposed to get some ice. Now, this is reference to that upper level low, that trough axis coming in across the southwest. So when you get a big bowling ball like that, it pulls in warm air advection from the Gulf of Mexico, and it does warm you up. But if you have Arctic air in place, sometimes this doesn't happen, and it just turns into a big old nasty ice storm. And then you can get, obviously, some winter temperatures that do fall in along that storm track and then points south, and as it moves by, it dumps a quick little dusting winter weather on top of you as well. So there's still a lot of details to work out here for that following weekend on the 15th and 16th, but just know there's some trouble here nearby that we're going to have to deal with. And then after that, sometimes you can warm things up in this pattern pretty quickly, but sometimes if not, if you've got these good strong Arctic air intrusions, it takes at least a couple of days before you can get temperatures to get out of the 20s or 30s. So this might be a little early in the warm up. So the point being is that you're going to be in this pattern for a while, so just get used to it. So day to day, check my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. It'll update as the computer models come in to try to give you your best forecast for your backyard. So that way you can dress appropriately. And as far as the winter storm, I'll be doing these live updates, kind of give you an idea on what you can expect. We'll narrow down the dates, the times, the amounts, the precipitation type, because it does get tricky this time of the year when you're having to deal with multiple precipitation types. And it does matter. If it's all snow, obviously it's a lot better to deal with. If it's more on just, it's like freezing rain or something, obviously that's a problem. Could be a problem for not only travel, but also power outage situations if it gets too heavy and there's some wind component involved. Otherwise, it looks like a little bit of a mixed bag off and on throughout the week. Hopefully it'll be light, so light meaning not much of more of a light nuisance, versus anything that'll be, shutting things down, which we don't want to see. But it can happen, so that's why we're talking about it now. And it's something that is exciting, something that keep you on your toes for a while. So I'll be doing more live updates. We'll do some over the weekend, probably Saturday. Friday, I probably don't plan on doing any tomorrow unless I do a lunchtime live, which I'm not sure if I will or not. But should update you on Saturday, and then maybe even Sunday. I'll do a blog on Sunday, which I post on my website, AaronTuttleWeather.com on Sundays. I usually give you a forecast for the week, for the next 7 days, and I do that once a week. And then otherwise, I do these lives and some sporadic social media posts for you. I think that was everything I want to tell you. Again, if my weather app, if you don't have it, AT's Weather to Go. It's on Apple and Google Play. Let me think, anything else? Okay, yeah, there was one thing, and then I'm going to let you go. I talked about this kind of at lunchtime a little bit today. I was telling Jody about it. So when I started doing this, it was back in 2010. All right, so Facebook, etc., had kind of blown up over the last 2 years, 3 years at that point, and I had retired from TV broadcasting in the news business, and I started doing weather on Facebook. I didn't think much about it, because I was just doing what I like to do, help you guys out, and it's just, when you're born to do something, you just do it, right? And I like helping people, and that's what I was gifted to do, so that's what I did. And it blew up. It got crazy, and I didn't expect that. I didn't know what it was. I'm just messing around, right? So it turned into something, and that got the attention of all the local news outlets. They're like, "What's this nonsense? We got a Facebook weather guy now all of a sudden who was in news media," and I had been 3 years out of TV at that time. So because I had retired, I walked away. I said, "I'm done with this. You guys can have it." I'm sick of this nonsense. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Trust me, TV is not what you think it is. So everybody has a BS meter that they're born with, and as you get older, that BS meter gets more and more filled. Right, that number gets higher and higher. And at one point, you've had enough, and you check out. Like I've had enough of that. My BS meter is filled. I'm not taking it anymore. I'm out. So you do have that as you get older. Anyway, so I had mine hit me early, and so I got out. But what I ended up doing is I missed what I did. Right, so I ended up building a studio in my house, and when the live capability came out in social media, from just posts and pictures to then videos, and then do live videos. So I did it on Facebook and YouTube, etc., and I started building it that way. And I did it in the approach like I did now. It's always been the same. It's calm, cool, collected, no anxiety, no hype, no drama, no clickbait, no dopamine hits. It was just me. All right, authentic, genuine, just straight up me. I talk like I talk to you now about side tangent stuff all the time. That way you get to know me. You get to know how I think and what I feel about stuff and that kind of deal. But I keep it still mostly centered on the weather. So that's kind of how I ran the whole thing. And then there was a guy. He was the first grifter con in the weather department, in the weather field, out across western parts of the U.S. in California. And he did a couple of websites that mimicked the National Weather Service, but got people confused. They thought it was the National Weather Service, and it wasn't. And the National Weather Service got upset with him because it was causing a problem, but legally they couldn't do anything about it. And so they chose just to ignore him and let him go. Well, the weather community, like me, got sick of him doing the clickbait BS articles that was never going to pan out. Bogus forecast. He's not a meteorologist. He's a fraud, right? A grifter. But he was smart in that he was the first person to realize if I do all that nonsense, people will watch and they'll share my stuff and I'll make money. And when I got into this, I didn't do it for money. There was no money. He got into it to make money. All right, well, fine. That's what he wanted to do. But that started what became a trend. This is where we are now. And it's not just in weather anymore. It's in everything. And so that's why I'm already burnt out now of social media because I saw what it turned into over the last few years of grifters and cons and people just doing it for the farming. They call it, farming. Where basically you're just trying to get as much traction as you can for the algorithms so you can get paid. And so it's all just a money grab, but there's no sincerity, there's no originality, there's no human element of creativity and or sincerity. It's all garbage. And so it's NPC stuff. So, which is a slang term for someone who's not really human, because it's the ones that can do something to somebody and sleep just fine, look at themselves in the mirror the next day. Not, one of those deals, and you're like, how are you looking yourself in the mirror? It's fine because they're NPCs, they're not human. That's how I rationalize it to make sense of it all. Otherwise, this whole thing falls apart like a house of cards. But anyway, so the point being is I stayed in my lane of doing what I always do and still do now. And what I realized is that doesn't grow in social media world. It grew at the beginning because it was early, new, and I was the first to do all of this, which is pretty cool. I didn't intend for it that way; it just kind of happened that way. But I didn't boast my chest about it or anything. I just did what I did, and that's just the way it turned out. The other guy, what he did is he tapped into something what it is now, which is the biggest clickbait you get, the biggest words you get, the biggest colors in the fonts, and the danger and the OMGs, and that filtered into the weather game. And then when computer models became open to the public, where you can go into some of these websites that I use, and you can pull those models up yourself, grifting and money tied in. So now everybody's doing it. And the issue was, just like in the early days, you had no idea the guy on the West Coast wasn't a meteorologist. You just assumed he was because it was a weather producing content. Same thing for today. There are so many people out there have no clue about anything with the weather, but it doesn't matter. And they don't care. They're not in it for the weather. They're in it for your views because they're in it for the money. And so that's where we are now on social media. So that's what I noticed in my field of weather. And then if you get outside of that, and now you go into news, you go into politics, you go into whatever, it's all the same. You will find one post literally copied and shared from 10 or 20 other accounts, all trying to grift. And I look at that, I'm like, my feed is filled with that crap. And so I am so over all of it to where now I'm starting to check back out and I don't even want to look at it. And it's frustrating because I'm in this field and I don't know if I want to stay in it, you know what I'm saying? Because of what's out there. And when you're watching now, with all your dopamine hits of going where all the action is, it's messing you up too. And so the originality and the authenticity of humans and what we could do, what we could be viewing, and what could be created is gone and is being replaced with automated chasing clicks and views for the sake of it, so that you can line your pockets and make a quick buck. And so it's frustrating. There's no answer. I don't have it for you. I just know from mine as a content creator on this side of things what it looks like. It may look different from your view. Maybe you haven't experienced it that way yet. I'm just very aware because I pay attention to a lot of stuff and I deep dive into everything. So I always want to find out things work. I'm a sponge. I'm always learning something. I am the last person that has tunnel vision. I have wide open vision, and I'm open-minded, and I will invest and dive into anything and everything to educate myself. So it's interesting to see how this landscape has changed. Twitter, for example, or X, you want to call it. For example, even though I'm verified on that, big deal. Anybody can be verified, if you pay money for them. But to get where you can get, like, say, for example, subscriptions, where you can actually have you guys donate back to me, for example, if you'd like to, on that platform, I can't turn that feature on until I have 5 million impressions over, I think it's just 90 days. The only way to get 5 million impressions is to farm and to clickbait. And I'm like, that's not me. So it's not built for authenticity or just your normal that's going to hang out and be honest with you and tell you things straight up. It's not made for that. It's made for the total opposites. So it's sad because that's how those platforms have now been designed and created. If you look at like TikTok, for example, you guys on TikTok right now, if you've noticed that, it's all it is, right? It's a trend. Everybody does it. Everybody copies it. And the whole point is to get how much traffic you can get to get the money that comes in with it. So it's the same idea on TikTok. It's just different. And it's on a different level of age group typically or generation. But otherwise, the same platform is just reaching a different audience. So every audience is the same, whether it's Facebook or TikTok, Instagram, it's a different breed too. They're still trying to work that anyway. Facebook is on making money on that side of things. So it's curious to be in this space on my side of things, and I'm just sticking with just mostly just the weather. There's obviously a lot of other content out there, and the same like we suffered with, and I've mentioned this a long time ago with the idea of like cable news channels or TV in general. Remember, some of you are not even old enough to even know this, but back in the day, you would turn on this TV and you'd have 3 channels to pick from. Maybe PBS, so maybe you had 4. You had to go to your TV and turn the dial. All right, I'm of that era. I just dated myself, but that's when you had very limited choices. Now, if you flip on your TV / cable / satellite, whatever, you've got 1,000 channels to pick from, more than you could ever do with. Well, that same philosophy is transitioned over into the social media landscape, and so you have so many different platforms and millions of content creators out there. How do you know which ones are legit? How do you know which aren't? Who do you want to follow? Who doesn't? What hits your dopamine? What doesn't? And so it is a zoo, in that field now, and I'm not sure where it's going to go. And even for me, when I started this, there was a place to be independent and to do weather as a meteorologist, like in other words, a degree met that you went to education for, to help the community out and not put them in danger, right? Do it safely and educate them, etc., and then make a living at it. Now, I don't know what kind of living, but at least the potential was there for making a living in that fashion. Now, anyone coming in and wanting to do that, I'm not so sure, because there's way too many people out there, and with the ability that you can just share computer model data anywhere galore and get it anywhere galore, there's no gatekeepers. There's no way to, hold that information, put some authenticity to it, verify it, and then display it in a way you can understand. It's just post whatever this is, get a bunch of clicks. It won't matter if it verifies or not, because the next day you got another wild post, and you're going to post that one, and then you're going to replace that one with the next one, and no one's ever going to check you, and you're going to move on the next day because it's old news in 15 minutes anyways, and you just move on and on and on, and then you try to squeeze out as much money as you can until you crash and burn or move on to the next deal. So it's a very weird space. I just want to give you some of my thoughts as to what's going on in the background, as I try to navigate through this. And it made me think about what to do here for my brand as I go into the spring for severe weather season, etc. I already have a lot of you that have become, Facebook fan subscribers or joined on YouTube or some of these other platforms where you can donate. And what I've seen now, and this is a long version where I'm telling you to go with this, because of the way things are, I think you're going to see people like myself. I know Reed Timmer, he's a friend of mine, go private. And by private, meaning that they're still public in what they kind of do now, like I'm doing, but there is part of it that the only way you can access it is if you actually are giving back to the creator that you're following, right? In other words, so that they can pay the bills and they can put food on the table. It's kind of a deal. Because if they're going to make that their business, they can't live off of likes and follows anymore, because there's that doesn't work anymore. That platform's gone. So you have to have some kind of revenue come in. And if you get, say, for example, like I've got about close to 200,000 followers across all platforms. Let's say that 0.001% donate. Well, obviously there's not going to be any revenue in that comes in for me. So if I change to a period where it's still mostly open, but there is a section of it that is for members only kind of a deal, which you've gotten used to in every other aspect of business, then that allows some revenue to come in to actually pay to keep the lights on and pay to want to do this. Because a lot of times when you give time back, it's one thing, but when you sacrifice a lot of your time, you sacrifice vacation time, there needs to be some reward factor coming in with that as well, to keep your sanity. So that's kind of the trade-off, right? Because we all can't work for free. It'd be nice, and that was part of my lunchtime deal, where I don't know how we all thought to sign up that we should all be working at least 5 days a week. This is a minimum, and some of us working more with 2 jobs, but working at least 1 job 5 days a week, where you have only about 3 hours to yourself, where you're not driving to and from work, or you're not having to go run errands or go pay a bill or whatever you have to do just to function on a daily basis, go buy groceries, cook the groceries, and then eat, and then somehow find time for yourself, whether that's go to the gym, whether that's spend time with your friends, your family, your kids, your wife, spouse, whatever, still have to sleep. And you do this 5 days a week, so you never really get caught up on anything else outside of that little bubble, and then you hit the weekend. And the weekend's like, I can breathe, I can sleep in for all of 1 hour, and then I got to spend the whole weekend doing projects that I couldn't do during the week. And then I got to run all these errands, all these stores that I couldn't run during the week, so I work from the office. And then it's, okay, I got kids I got to take to this game and that game. I want to go do something with the wife. Oh, hey, wife, I get to spend, 3 hours with you today versus the whole week. Yay, go for the relationship. And then we all sign up for it to start right back all over on a Monday. And I'm like, who the hell decided this was the way to live? And Gen Z says, not us. We're checking out. We're not doing that crap. So I envy Gen Z and then the ones coming after, because you're right, it's garbage. I don't know who told us this is how life should be on this planet, but someone started it, and we all followed along, a bunch of dumb lemmings. My parents did it, and their parents did it, etc. Doesn't make it right. Now, I don't know what the solution is, but it certainly isn't the way it is currently. And then you factor in politics and everything else, and that's a whole other tangent to add to it. So it's just a very strange way to live where we are when you look around you what we're actually on this planet and what we could be doing versus what we are doing, which is slaving away to pay the tax man who's going to take all your taxes and feed it, like we found out recently, to all different places of the world that has nothing to do with you working hard for your money to spend 2 hours with your family so that I can go and spend X number of dollars to some other country to support diapers for birds, kind of a deal. I'm like, what? It is like a, huh? Come again? That's just a silly example, but some of the stuff that's coming out recently on government spending will make your head explode. And it's sickening, actually, because your tax dollars should stay, obviously here, either in your local community or then at least in your local country, because there's too many of us that can't even afford what we're doing already. So there's so much in that packed in that it's just so filled with nonsense and garbage. And it's like, how do you exit? How do you check out? And you say, all right, this is a matrix. I want out. I want all. I'm checking out. And you always see those stories of people that live off the grid, right? And they don't pay their taxes anymore. And somehow they didn't get arrested in prison because they didn't pay their taxes. I'm like, that sounds nice, but also sounds like a setup. But there's got to be a way to exit the matrix and survive. So we'll see what's going to happen over the coming days and weeks and months and years. But for me, anyway, just some thoughts here that I got going on in my head, just as far as the space that we're in right now, and especially when it comes to social media and what to do about it. So I might be shifting gears toward a little bit. Maybe I've got my severe weather coverage, for example, that might be subscriber only. I know Reed Timmer does that whenever he chases. Initially, there's a little free content, but then he turns the freebie off, and if you want to watch, you got to go to another stream, something like that. It's complicated when you're dealing with different social media outlets and channels, so I kind of have to think that through. But it's one way just to generate some additional revenue. Trust me, it's great to get the pat on the back, so you do a good job. I get that, and I do appreciate that. But it's another thing, you got to keep the lights on, right? You got to pay the bills, because the tax man's always coming, and they always coming with more and more demands every year. And I know you're hurting, I'm hurting, everybody's hurting. So it's frustrating. I just don't know what the solution is. That's the problem. So that is it for me, and that was a lot. I feel better. I feel like I just talked to Dr. Bill. I don't even think he's actually even a real psychologist, by the way. But whatever. Maybe he was the first original grifter in the psychology space. But regardless, I do feel better though now that I've vented a little bit. And some of you probably agree with me. Others you probably think I'm Looney Tune. That's fine. It's whatever. Regardless, I'll still be here to give you accurate forecast weather information as best I can. I'm going to get out of here. You guys have a great rest of your night. Appreciate getting your support, whether it is just liking, share the content as always, or just following the page that you're on for the platform. If you do want to get back, there's plenty of options to do that. Always in the videos, in the comments, or in the description settings, or my website, aarontuttle.com. There's plenty of ways there, and you can do that as well to help support what I've been doing since 2010. It's a long time, and I'm getting old. I'm getting tired. It is 2025. I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep doing this, but we'll see. We'll see where it goes. But thanks again regardless, and we will see you on the next broadcast for talking about the next upcoming winter weather. opportunities. All right, take care, everybody. Sleep well.